3 blue ball cigars 2
She just dubbed.
1
Oh, there's a
coffee.
country called coffee?
No 始まるよ
Welcome back to another episode of the Ryukyu podcast. Today, Ryukyu podcast. Sorry, I had something in my throat a little bit there.
Yeah, okay.
But more concerning than my throat is what is Kit wearing over here?
Well, so yesterday, somebody attacked the Leaf Village, and I was the only one there to defend it. So I had to use up my chakra, but in order for use my entire chakra that I had stored in my body, it blew up my arm.
Oh, jeez.
But I took him down.
It blew up your arm.
Yeah, you still see my fingers, but this inside is pretty gnarly.
Oh, yeah.
So, but, you should see the other guy.
But since you're awesome, it's probably going to heal pretty fast, right?
Yeah, my chakra's already doing most of the work. Yesterday, I couldn't even move my fingers.
Oh, jeez.
So, it's like I have this chameleon ability, jujutsu. Chameleon no jujutsu. Yeah, that's the story I'm going to stick with.
Okay. It's a good one.
Out of all the lies that I've told so far, that might be the best.
And for those of you who watched some of our more recent live videos, well, Buddy's right here, but you notice he's right here, not inside this. So Kit had this, white sheet thing or whatever, like a tourniquet thing. I don't know what it was.
I mean, it's a tourniquet. I don't know. Y'all are making a big deal out of it. It was literally a cloth.
It was a piece of cloth.
I've seen other people have it when they break it.
Well, you were making a big deal because it was, driving into your clavicle.
I mean, I've never thought it was comfortable, but I was lucky that I bought this off Amazon for Buddy.
Yeah.
Because, it's actually working really well for my arm.
That's good. Yeah, we were just thinking because it was so bad that we were like, oh, why don't we just try this out? And it works better, apparently, so, right?
Yeah, it's not as supportive, honestly, but it's also not as constricting, so...
It doesn't hurt your clavicle. Where's your clavicle anyway?
You got it to the max.
Yeah, this is as far as it goes, and it's not as...
Yeah, it's not high enough.
It's not high enough. So
yeah, it's like your arm normally is supposed to be up here, right? But
I don't know where my arm's supposed to be. I don't know. I don't think my arms shouldn't be in this position to begin with. It should be at my side, freely moving as it pleases.
You really need to put that behind your back. You're still doing the neck thing.
Well, I don't know. This is my first fracture, man. I'm not a pro.
I mean, you wear it like a one thing bag. Like that backpack we have that has one strap.
Oh, I hate that bag.
You don't just put it like this.
Do you like bags that do that?
Yeah, I mean, I used to wear them, right?
God, I hate those. They're so unbalanced.
I mean, I guess if you put too much stuff in them, they become unbalanced, yeah.
Well, if you have a small one.
Yeah. Well,
what we have.
Yeah, but I'm talking like an actual size backpack. That a sling bag?
Well, I didn't think it was an actual size when I bought it.
Yeah, you better.
Oh, yeah.
I bought it online. I was like, oh, this is cool. It has compartments for all the camera stuff. It was a full-size backpack with one strap, and I'm like...
At some point, it
wanted
needs
it to be smaller.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a threshold.
Well, there's a threshold for that.
Or to start sagging a bit too much.
But, yeah.
So what did you do when you took that, when you defended the Hidden Leaf Village and you realized your arm was a little bit...
Well, I used the Jinchuriki inside of me.
Okay, but how did you get to this?
You?
How did you get to this, the casts and the wraps and all that stuff?
Oh, well, it was kind of crazy, because, I had to run as fast as I could through the forest and the cities, jumping off rooftops.
With your arms backwards, yeah.
But I could only have one arm, so I was just like this.
So you're super unbalanced. You're like this.
Just all the way to the hospital. Literally blue ball That's pretty much what happened.
Okay, so at the hospital or wherever you ran to, how did you get treated? So what was the procedure like?
Well, they took me into a room. They had these ritualistic candles, and it was like a grandma in a white coat thing, or like kimono, sitting in the middle of the candle, and they told me to come. And there was like a pool of water that she wanted me to soak my body into.
Mm-hmm.
And as it was going, there's like a couple of like her deshi, like assistants, surrounding me, and they were all chanting, and the water started vibrating. And I could feel it as it vibrated start healing.
Is this podcast going to be just like the entire 2 hours or whatever we're going to do?
Just talking about
you making up a story as you go about what happened to your arm. It's the entire podcast.
I was healed by the vibration of this old lady.
Of the water? Of
the
this old lady?
Yeah.
Wait, let me rephrase it.
Yeah, she was over there in the corner vibrating.
You're vibrating doing this.
There's a lot of vibrating going on. I was vibrating. She was vibrating.
That
The
thing
water
inside of you.
was vibrating.
Yeah.
So
The thing inside of her? Of the chakra?
the
No, it's just-
Jinchurikyu.
Yeah,
Oh,
Just putting vibrating things inside.
Wow. Japan has pretty expertise with vibrations, too.
Yeah, well, that's how you heal.
Yeah.
That's why our healthcare system is awesome.
That sounds a lot different from America, right?
It's very different. Speaking of differences in America, let's talk about cultural differences.
You just like grabbed onto that segue and you're like, okay.
Yeah, thanks. That was a great segue to the actual topic at hand. What was the difference between moving from America to Japan?
Mm-hmm. Now, we might have a little bit of like a different range because I came back to Okinawa in 2009, but originally I moved here in end of 1998.
For you, it was probably more of like, what was the culture shock going to America?
Going to America from Japan.
Yeah, I think because you were only in America for like 3 years or something.
3 years, yeah, between high school. So, because, when I moved here, I was so young that it was kind of...
Okay, let me ask you this then. What was something that you liked about America?
That I liked about America versus here.
Yeah, because you bitch about it all the time, but what is something
South
you actually
Dakota.
liked about it?
South Dakota. Okay. That's going to be a hard state to talk about what's good.
Wow, you just
But-
insulted like 2 people from South Dakota.
Yeah, I insulted the entire population of 12 in South Dakota. No,
Well, there were some places that we actually drove by when we went to, not South Dakota, but Wyoming in particular, where it would state, like, as
Wait a
you're in the
minute.
town, it's a
Hold on.
Yeah,
population.
okay, so you're already going into a new state, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So we're like trying to talk about South Dakota, and you're like, well,
Wyoming.
Well, let me tell you
Also-
about Wyoming. Beautiful state.
Also, my mind's kind of blown right now because I thought South Dakota was like on the more eastern border of the United States.
So South Dakota's, like, directly in the center. So it's above...
I thought it was
So
near
it's
New
like-
York or something.
It's like Texas, Oklahoma...
North and South
Kansas.
Carolina are on the East Coast.
Yes. Yeah,
North
you're
and
thinking of
South
those.
Dakota.
See, I thought North Carolina and South Carolina were by Texas.
No, that's the Dakotas. Yeah, so you flip-flop them, basically.
No.
So
Dakotas are not by Texas either, really.
they're above Texas.
So it's next to Wyoming?
Yes.
Yeah. They're not near Texas. Texas is in the center, but Texas on the bottom center.
Yeah, Texas is at the bottom, but it's basically if you go directly north, the Dakotas are right there. The South Carolina, North Carolina are like on the east
At
coast.
the very top. Past North Dakota is Canada.
Canada, yes.
Past Texas is Mexico.
I don't know.
And the
If you
Gulf
ever-
of Mexico.
So in my head, okay, when I think of America and the map of America,
Uh-huh.
I literally, you know that meme where it's like how other people see the United States and it's like California and then Texas and then New York
everything else.
and then everything else.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
my view of America. Like I know
Yeah, that's a good topic of discussion because you grew up here mostly, so like your visualization of where states are and stuff are like that's why like it's always surprising to me when Europeans are like, oh, Americans are so dumb they don't know where all the European countries are, and it's like,
do you know
how many states can you because United States as a whole
50
is like
states.
Yeah, all 50.
roughly the size of Europe, like almost the same. Europe's maybe just slightly bigger, but I mean, you could literally the entire country of Europe is like more comparable to the size of the United States than any one country in Europe. One country in Europe is like one state in America.
That's when I think of Europe, and it's like, I don't know, like, I'm not trying to base it as like a country like the U.S. because the U.S. is an abnormally large country.
Not, but I'm just talking size-wise.
Right.
You can't just be like, you know.
And when you think of like small...
I think, Europeans maybe are comparing country to country, and they're like, well, United States is a country, and France is a country.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but United States is the size of all of Europe, not France. France is the size of like Kansas. You know what I mean? Well, actually, that's the biggest country, I believe, in Europe. France. So maybe like Texas.
Kansas?
No.
France is one of the largest countries in Europe. I don't know if it's the biggest. Okay.
See, this is how much Kit knows about.
Yeah, so this is... this really has nothing to do with her being from Japan and not knowing about America. She just dumb.
She's just dumb.
Oh, God.
Well, I guess this is a byproduct of growing up in Japan and not having spent any time in America as a kid, as you just don't know anything about it, right?
So I don't even... I mean, the original question was, what were something you like about America?
He's like, I'm trying to, like, protect you from looking dumb by saying you were born in Japan. But now you're just...
Yeah, but now you think Kansas is in Europe, and I can't help you. I can't help you.
protect you from here.
Yeah.
You're on your own.
You're just like, Kansas, that's where the Wicked Witch of the West was from, right? Like, yeah, you gotta click your heels 3 times.
Kid, we ain't in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, we ain't in Kansas. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
I do know one person that's from Kansas, though. Only one person.
I know a few people.
Yeah, we know a few people from Kansas. Not South Dakota, though.
Do you know where Kansas is in the U.S., though?
Yeah, where is that?
No idea. Remember, California, Texas, New York, and everything else.
Well, Kansas is a very easy one to describe where it's at.
It's like right smack dab in the middle.
It's like literally if you drew a dot.
Yeah, see, I can't, even in my head, I can't imagine what's around that.
Kansas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, the only reason I know where Idaho is, and Washington... Well, I know all the western
states.
You spent some time there.
But, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I also don't know much of Japan Prefecture, too.
That's a good point.
But I think a lot of that, too, though, is I grew up in Okinawa.
Yeah.
Where, like, if I had grown up in mainland Japan and got to actually travel on the train up and down, like, Japan... Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like, well, there's Okinawa, Japan, or Okinawa, Hokkaido, and then everything else.
Yeah. There's not even Kyushu there, it's just everything else is part of Honshu.
It's interesting.
Oh, and Okinawans, a lot of people will say, even if they are from Hokkaido or Kyushu, they'll just say Naicha, which is a mainlander, right? Even though that's like not the main, because the main island is literally called Honshu, which is like main prefecture.
Yeah.
But there's Shikoku, Honshu,
Kyushu and Hokkaido, right?
And then Okinawa.
Okinawa is technically considered part of Kyushu, but it's just so far away. Like, I actually looked at the map just like the other day about, like, there's a Facebook meme where everyone's like, this is where Okinawa is or whatever, right? And I didn't realize even Kyushu is like at the like bottom tip of like South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's actually a lot further than I thought it was, because like if you fly to Tokyo, it's actually a lot further than just flying to Seoul in Korea.
That's another thing that I hear all the time people say about Okinawa. They're like, well, it's so far from Tokyo, so it's nowhere near Japan. And I'm like, well, I mean, Tokyo's like midway up Japan. Like, Okinawa's... I mean, it's close to a bunch of other countries too, but it's not that far from Japan if you go by the bottom of it. You can't just compare it to Tokyo.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I think people that don't know much about Japan are like, oh, you're 5,000 miles from Tokyo or whatever it is, 3,000 miles or something.
Mm.
You're like, yeah, but that's not like Japan. Speaking on how big America is, all of Japan is the size of California.
Yep.
Just California.
Yeah.
So going back to how large the states
But when you
are.
consider like distance-wise, though, it is considerably further from like Okinawa to Tokyo. It's just when you consider the landmass, it's all about the size of California. So
Well, it's interesting too, because like when I went for my job, I went to the different office from where I normally work, and they were so curious about the fact that I lived in California for 10 years, and they're like, Disneyland? Like every Japanese person who doesn't know much about America.
I'm very lucky that I'm from California, at least in terms of explaining where I'm from to people.
that's true, yeah.
Because
everybody already knows where that is.
yeah, because I think if California, New York, I could just say like, yeah, I'm from California or I'm from New York. But like if I was from any other state, like South Dakota or something, I'd just have to say America.
Well, that's
because no one would know.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I'm from South Dakota.
Well, even Americans half the time don't know where South Dakota is.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what TQ Sam was saying. Like,
Yeah.
he's from, I think he said he's he's more from, like, Colorado or something, or Connecticut or something. And he's like, I just say that I'm from New York.
Well, he moved around a lot.
Yeah, he moved around
but he
a
just
lot,
says
so-
that.
I
It's
see.
not
But-
because I'm dumb, alright? I literally moved around a lot.
But yeah, when people ask me, like, Japanese people specifically, like, I always say I'm from California, and that's never been a problem. But I've seen it where other people are like, oh yeah, I'm from Kansas, or I'm from South Dakota, or I'm from New Hampshire or something, and they're like, so which country are you from?
It's like, I remember I heard a story
I'm
about a
from
guy.
America.
Or if you say you're from Georgia, it's like, are you from Georgia? There's actually a country, Georgia, too, right? So
I don't know how
that's
many people are from Georgia, the
There's
country,
also
though.
coffee.
I don't know anybody, huh?
There's also a coffee.
Colombia?
No, the coffee.
Georgia.
Oh, there's
The
a country
coffee.
called coffee?
No.
What is going on here? Georgia coffee.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But I don't know what that has to do with anything. No one's from the Georgia coffee place. What is going on in this podcast?
I guess we don't know anything about geography.
There might be a place called... I'm sure there's a
I'm
city.
sure there's a city called Coffee.
I'm
There's
sure
a
there's a
pl-
city
there's
called
a city
coffee.
called
There is no
Popcorn.
country called coffee, though. But
There's a city called Popcorn. There's got to be a city called
There's a
Popcorn.
place.
I'm sure
there's a
there's a
place
city.
called Hell in Texas too, apparently.
yeah, I can see that.
So, anyway, sort of back on topic. So,
What did you
was-
like about South Dakota
Okay, so I guess one thing I like about is just the
that you prefer over this?
Ooh, that's hard. I don't
Yeah.
think
that I
that's a-
prefer.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, I wouldn't say prefer necessarily, but it is nice that you sort of get like the 4 seasons. But if you get that in mainland, then you get that. But
Yeah.
in South Dakota, what's like, I think they had like a joke. It's like almost winter, still winter, and road construction, right? Because I remember when I was there, it was like in early May, and we had a massive blizzard, and I was just like. And I was living by myself at the time, so I was just like walled into my house for like a couple of days.
That'd be frightening.
And this is in the middle of May too, like it's supposed to be spring, and it's supposed to start warming up or whatever, right? But having the 4 seasons is really nice because I actually got to go snowboarding or skiing or do like some of the winter sports. I don't particularly like driving in snow, or it's not really so much the snow; it's like the black ice. I think is the worst part, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about space?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. There's a lot of open space in South Dakota, or basically anywhere you go. I feel like in the U.S., especially compared to Japan, where you just you drive for like 50 miles, and before I moved to South Dakota, people were telling me, "Oh, I drove there, and I drove 100 miles, and you get to like one gas station. That's like the only thing that's there."
Yeah.
It's not entirely off base. Because
Yeah.
there is a lot of vast openness where you can just kind of drive for hours and just not really hit anything.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really cool part about being in the U.S. is just all
There's
that.
a charm to it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
and like
think
it makes like road trips a lot more like fun, I guess.
I would call it beautifully isolating.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know
yeah.
if I would live like that forever,
Mhm.
but to visit, like, Nevada was kind of like that. When we would drive through Nevada,
There's not a lot in Nevada.
And there'll be signs that'll say the next gas station is 80 miles from here, so you might want to stop here if you're, just to top off. Mm-hmm. And you do want to take that advice, because otherwise you're going to get stuck in the middle of Nevada.
Yeah.
And oftentimes with no cell signal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the open vastness. For sure.
I do like the fact that there's, part of the open vastness, I think space has to do with a lot of these. It's like the parking is much better in America than it is in Japan.
Parking.
Well, only in towns.
Well, I mean...
Because cities are pretty bad.
Cities are bad, but like Rapid City, the area where we live, the population was only like 60,000 or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking like... I'm thinking like Sacramento and LA and San Francisco.
Because of the way the system is laid out as a grid system and the way the traffic lights work, it feels like it flows a lot better than it does compared to here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he talks about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Where some of as we were coming here, we were at that traffic area where we got stopped like 3 different times at like the adjacent, and I'm like, we're on the main road. Why are we getting stopped so much?
Yeah.
Well, I will admit that traffic in Okinawa is not good. That being said, being from California, it's also not good. Mm-hmm. But I can recognize that it's not good here, too.
In a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really experienced no traffic. Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah, you're just...
I mean, non-traffic hours, but like a place that just never gets traffic.
That's true.
That doesn't even exist.
Yeah,
for me.
because South Dakota, did have a fair amount of places that just didn't have like much traffic.
Nothing happens, right?
And you're pretty consistent as long as there's no like black ice or snow or like some sort of road the road construction is probably like, the worst part about it, because every summer they would be doing a lot of road construction, but
because the weather, right?
Yeah, trying to fix the damage from the winter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So another thing that was nice too was being there, and being back here for so long. You look at the food sizes and you're like, wow, this, like, you get used to that food size, right? But then you go to America and then you get like a restaurant, you go to a place and you get free refills. You get like free refills of like bread or some of like the cheaper items, and the portions are just so huge. And like,
actually, I'll say something on that. I don't think the foods, a lot of people talk about the food size. I don't think it's like that vastly different. I think the biggest thing is the sodas.
Yeah, the sodas, yes.
Yeah, the drinks are free refills always in America. Like, wherever you go, you could just get refills, get as much as you want. But here, it's like they give you a tiny cup, or if you order a large, they give you a small to medium-sized cup. And...
That's true.
And then once you drink that, that's all you get. Yeah, you don't get any refills.
So. And they're expensive too.
Yeah, and they're not cheap. But the actual plate sizes, I feel like maybe it's because here it seems like everything's just loaded with tons of rice and it really fills you up. But like eating a whole plate of something here versus America, generally not that different. I will say America in general has a higher scale of serving more foods, but just like your average food place, I don't think is in like much more than here. Usually.
I don't know, because when we went on base yesterday to have food there, there was a few times when they were bringing out our food where I'm like, oh my god, I completely forgot about the size of American.
We got this pretzel and it was
literally the steering wheel.
Yeah, it was a steering they were. We asked about how big the pretzel was because it was like $8 or something, and then they were like, oh yeah, it's pretty big. They did the motion of the steering wheel, and then it came out on like this like giant tray that was like this big, and we were like, holy cow, it's actually pretty big.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on where you go, I guess, because, like, compare that to, like, a McDonald's meal, right, which is much more average. And, I mean, a Big Mac and some fries and, like, take away the soda part, but Big Mac, like, it's the same here, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's a smaller Big Mac or anything.
Oh, yeah, I guess food-wise, yeah.
I don't know, though, because, like, when you think
I feel like the fry size is bigger, though. Because they usually just use the small bag for the kid size.
Well, that's one thing is, like, they can be bigger, but I don't know.
I feel like if you go to, like, a sit-down restaurant, like, one that we used to go to a lot was Outback Steakhouse. I just think about the food portions there are just massive.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
true.
like in America, I had more like I had more of a need for to-go containers. Because I could just not finish my food.
Right.
Whereas here, I don't generally run into that problem unless I'm eating on the military base.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on where you go, too. I don't know.
But I just feel like on average, though, like anywhere I would go to, even like a Perkins or a Denny's or like Applebee's or Chili's, I feel like I mean, for me, I could finish all of it because I'm the resident waste disposal. But I know a lot of my friends who just could not finish it. They would grab to go boxes or whatever and eat it as their next meal. So
yeah, I would say that it does still stand. I don't think.
What's a comparable place in Okinawa here?
To what though?
To American sizes,
Like Denny's or
Well, like a chain restaurant.
oh
like
well,
that.
I mean, I would say like if we were talking about like Denny's or IHOP, it'd probably be Gusto.
Gusto, or like Wafute,
Wafu.
anything that's sort of like a brand restaurant, right?
Yeah.
You think they serve smaller portions?
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah, I think so. A lot of
100%.
what fills you up there is like the rice.
Yeah, the rice and because they give you the rice and the bread usually for free, especially if you order that the buffet thing because you could order it for 350 or 400 yen extra, right? To just have unlimited bread or rice. So I think the protein amount and the vegetable amount is quite small, but what fills you is the rice.
I think that is one thing that bothers me about here is the rice to like vegetables and protein and stuff ratio is always really bad. It seems like there's way more rice than there needs to be. Maybe it depends where you go.
I understand that though, because unlike America, produce and meat products are either having to be imported or it's a lot more because in Japan there's not a huge place for this type of stuff. So those go up in price. So they usually give you smaller amounts of that and try to fill you up with the rice.
No, I understand. I'm thinking about it in terms of like a balanced diet, I guess. It's not balanced.
Yeah, like the meat to rice or the vegetable to rice ratio.
Yeah.
Just doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that we joke about a lot in Asian cultures. Is like, well, you got too much rice or you got too much meat or whatever. So, because the idea is the rice here is also not just what fills you up, but it's also considered like a palate cleanser, which is why it's usually always served as like shirogohan, white rice. And that's why like here it's kind of taboo to like put, because I see a lot of Americans do still like put soy sauce on the rice here, and the Japanese people are just like, what are you doing? Like you're tainting your palate cleanser,
Yeah.
or like furikake, like even you put furikake on your rice, and people are just like, it's so weird. Like why would you flavor your rice? That's supposed to be we're supposed to use to sort of like regain your palate or whatever, right? You eat like a juicy like steak or meat or chicken or whatever, and then the rice is supposed to help you go from that food to like your vegetables or to your soup or whatever. So that's the idea of the rice. So that's probably why you get so much of it too. So
Yeah.
But another thing I miss, or I think is nice about America too, I don't know if I'm like, it's just different here, right? Is you go to a store or you go like random people will come up to you and they'll have a lot more like conversations more easily with you, like small talk. I
People
guess
are more approachable.
they're more approachable. Whereas like Japan, you see somebody, you just say oh konnichiwa, and then that's it. You just pass ways. But in the U.S., like while you're waiting in the shopping line or whatever, like at Albertsons or whatever, like people will actually talk to you. They'll be like, oh, you're getting the carrots. Oh, I like carrot. Or like, I don't know, just like just some random conversation that's like sort of like
the carrot conversation.
Yeah, I've had this carrot conversation. And,
or about potatoes or whatever, so.
I mean, we weren't friends, but we talked a lot during my like little short time checking out, but she really got into my Horde bag because about the time I was playing World of Warcraft with my
right.
And I had a purse that was with a Horde symbol on it, and she was in Alliance. And so we talked about World of Warcraft because she saw my bag and she was like, oh, that's so cool. And we exchanged Battle.net accounts, but I never added her. I forgot to.
Do we know who that is?
No, she's just some random checkout lady at Safeway.
Oh, you're just giving an example. You never saw her again after that?
Oh, we bumped into her a couple more times when I went through Safeway, and each time, like, we would
I
talk.
see. At the same store.
Yeah.
I see.
So, I mean, it was like, there's conversations like that, and then even I've had doctor's visits where, we would find common ground. I would find common ground with the doctor, and we'd, like, get in on this topic of, like, Star Wars, or just, I feel like, and my sister who's lived in Japan all her life, who visited me in the States, even commented that she feels that Americans are a lot more friendly.
Approachable.
Like, Japanese people are kind, but I don't necessarily say they're friendly. Mm-hmm. Whereas Americans are friendly, but the kindness, I mean, they're mostly kind, but I think they're very, very friendly people. Mm-hmm.
They like to talk or like to strike conversations with people, but like they're probably like less. Well, I don't want to speak bad on like either of the countries, but like I guess like friendly is like they're willing to talk to you, whereas kindness I think is like they're willing to do like good actions for you. Like if they see you struggling with like picking up something or whatever, they might go over to help you out or something. Well, I assume that happens.
No, America definitely people are a lot.
Well, a good example is more like. When you're looking for something in a store or you're looking to like know where to go or something, a Japanese person will usually like take you and walk you there and like talk about it and stuff versus like an American store clerk is more likely going to just be like,
it's aisle 5 or something
aisle 5.
like that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think...
Not to say that, that's like a rule for each.
Well, actually, this happened to me yesterday where, I mean, I'm not saying this against any Americans or something, because I'm sure it happens in America, but this was, to me, very Japanese, was I was leaving the emergency room after my ritualistic healing, vibrational healing, and the security guards, as I was leaving, they were like, hey, do you need help with the parking? Because... in order to do it, you have to put the ticket in. And at first I was like, oh, I'll be fine. And then they were like, are you sure? Because you have to, like, reach over. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. So the guy was like, here, I'll do it for you. So he walked to the ticket machine, which was probably, like, I don't know, like a minute or two walk to the parking lot. Like, he walked with me to the parking lot, which was a minute or two away from his station. I gave him my 100 yen, I gave him my ticket, and he waited for me while I went into the car, and then as I got out, he met me at the parking lot ticket thing, and then he put my ticket in. And
that's definitely more Japanese.
Yeah, I think they just saw that I had an impaired right hand, and they just foresaw that I would have issues putting tickets in,
right.
And then they decided to come and help me, so that was really, that's one of those, I was like, omoiyari, the Japanese omoiyari, where they, like, think and foresee problems that may happen, and they try to help you. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then another nice thing, I guess, about going to, like, or, like, meeting with American friends, right? Because you meet with, like, at least from my experience, with most of my Japanese friends that I had in the 20s, unless you become really close to them, you don't really get to, like, go to their house or, like, meet their family all that often. Whereas I feel like Americans, like, you are more often be able to go to their house and just hang out and meet the parents or just have dinner with them or whatever. It tends to be more, like, just a common thing to do in the U.S. versus, like, Japan. Whereas I think, the reason for that perhaps is Japan is also, like, more... smaller houses in general, but also more like a generational house where it's like it's not really their house to be able to invite people in. But I feel like in the U.S., one thing I would do a lot as a child, I grew up here, but I had American friends growing up because of the base affiliation, and we would always do stuff like sleepovers or whatever, right? Or just like just like go to other places like with the parents in tow or whatever, and the parents at a young age would usually be nice or would pay for like me or whatever, right? Even though I was just like I wasn't their child, I was just with them or whatever. They would pay for me or like treat me like I was like their own child or whatever. Whereas I feel like here it's not, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard because I made a lot of my Japanese friends as an adult, but I feel like even if I knew them as a kid or knowing people as a kid, that's just not something they do. They mostly just stay to their own place, or they don't just go to their own house or whatever.
Yeah,
so.
I actually can attest to that because I was, even as a kid growing up in Japan, I was friends with the neighborhood kids. But there's a lot of neighborhood kids' family. Like, they never invited me really over to their house unless I really, really got close to them. Even, for instance, I have a friend of mine who grew up with a Japanese mom. And she feels bad about it now for thinking this way, but she said there were moments that she wished her mom was white when she was a kid, because in her mind, she was like, all the white moms always bought snacks when friends came over, they had sleepovers, and they were very friendly, and when she would come and hang out, like she would give her a hug and, basically treat her like she was one of their own. And so that, I think, that's when I say, like, when Americans are friendly, they extend that, they're very welcoming.
Right.
It's really interesting.
And even when we met Tikio Sam for the first time, instead of bowing or shaking hands, he just come over here, let's give a hug, right? And I think that's such a great way to break the ice, coming in with a hug and being like, yeah, we're friends now, And that's something that you definitely see more with Americans than you would
I
in
never
Japanese.
thought of that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because you think about it in neighborhoods, right? Like in South Dakota, even the neighborhood that we lived in, I got to know a fair amount of my neighbors.
Yeah.
And people close by, they, I'd be mowing the grass, they would come by and say hi, or they would offer me some food or whatever. Whereas my neighborhood that I live in currently, I live in an apartment with 15 other tenants, and I only know maybe 2 of them, but it's never gone beyond a random conversation or whatever.
Yeah, same here.
So I just feel like, it's that sort of. It's easier for people to sort of break the ice in the U.S. and they're just they're more easily approachable, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's very. I think America tends to be very community oriented in that I think they're much more open to knowing what's around them and just that neighborly feeling. I think is a little bit more there. When I was growing up I think it might be an era thing, too. Because when I was growing up living with my bachan, which is my grandma, everybody in that neighborhood would have barbecues. They would come over to my bachans or we'd go over somebody else's. And everybody knew each other. But I think my mom's generation and up, people have started becoming more and more... I think people are less and less...
affable or or distant or not distant, but they're more, I guess, preoccupied, right?
Maybe preoccupied. I mean, at this point, because most of the people on that block, the neighborhood that my grandma and my grandpa knew, a lot of them have passed on because they were my grandma and grandpa's age. And now, their kids live in their houses, but I don't even know any of them. Right.
Huh. So, I enjoyed that as a kid, growing up. I guess this is unique apparently to America, but I grew up as a kid on a city block, and that block at the time, almost every other house was kids around my age. And so I got to know all the kids on the block, and all of us would run around the whole neighborhood, go to each other's houses, play games, do things, and it's just
you think about Hey Arnold, right? Everybody
it was exactly like that.
Yeah.
Except I think even more so than Hey Arnold, because they weren't necessarily on the same neighborhood, but it was more
but when you think about it in terms of
you just go to their house.
Arnold, right? They lived in a boarding house, right? And Arnold, I mean, all the tenants, of course, they pay to Arnold's grandpa, who the owner.
Yeah, but
right?
it's kind of they all know each other, and it's very communal.
Right,
yeah,
right. Whereas, think about the apartments I live in, the apartments you guys live in right here, right? It's how many of the people here do you know? On
just
any
by
sort of
faces,
level.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you just recognize that they probably live here because you see them a lot. But
the most I know of my neighbors is the one that lives across from us with the 2 kids. And the only reason I know them is because they lost their cat one time, or their cat ran away, and I was helping them find their cat. But after that, I've never really talked to them aside from a konnichiwa, just a greeting.
Huh. Well, I guess
And
maybe I should talk about
Because even, like, you're just mentioning, like, block parties, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of those, too.
When I was growing up in, at least the neighborhood in Okinawa, I had a lot of Japanese friends. We would hang out outside and play at the parks, but it was a lot rarer for them to invite me to just come over to their house.
Right.
Yeah, I see.
Whereas I feel like that's like a common thing to happen in America. You would go to like all of your friends' houses. And
there was
such.
only one friend that I had who I would stay over at her house, and she lived right across the street from me, and she was the one friend that I spent the most time with. But I kind of no, she was a Japanese girl, but it was more that I kind of forced myself into her house. Like, that sounds weird, but it was just like,
as a kid.
Yeah, as a kid, I was just like going into her house. I didn't think much of it.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while, her parents just, but because I was there all the time. But every other kid, I have never seen the inside of their house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because between the three of us, you guys both, like, more or less grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
Chris had a unique experience, though, because you lived on base.
Yeah.
So
I grew up here, but I lived on base, so I had a lot of
perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to say, maybe, maybe I should talk about the things that I like about Japan, things that I've noticed, because I've been in America like the entire time. Like, I don't know anything.
Yeah, so coming here from a much more recent time period, you've been here for 3 years now, right?
Just 3 years. Yeah, I spent 30 in America, right?
Yeah.
So, and none, just 3 years in Japan now. But it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of little things that I notice here that I do really like. I mean, one thing is the city. I like living in a place where I could walk to a lot of other places. And in America, usually that's the reason people want to live downtown in a city.
Right.
Is because of the walking and the proximity of everything. But the problem with an American city being downtown is it's dangerous. Usually, if it's a big enough city, any sort of large city.
So wait, I got a story I want to share.
Okay.
Sorry. The first time I went downtown, so I'd already lived there for about a year, and my ex-husband's parents would refuse to go downtown because it was so dangerous and there were so many homeless people. And I remember the first time I went downtown, really downtown, was with Matt. We went on our first date to a pizza place. And we drove into the city under this overpass, and I turned my head, and I was at the stop light, and there was a penis staring right back at me. Because a guy was peeing into the road.
Oh, jeez.
It was a homeless guy peeing right into the road, and I was like, oh, so this is downtown.
Which is another...
Unexpectedly got flashed.
Yeah.
It's kind of
and almost nourished.
It's a kind of a catch-22, right? Because all these shops and restaurants and stuff in downtown cities do not let you use the restrooms.
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah. In America, it's
unless
hard.
You're a customer. But
even if you're a customer,
if you're a customer, sometimes these places just don't even have customer restrooms. Yeah, they're just sorry, it's for employees, or I don't know, they go somewhere else. Anyway, which is why a lot of times you see feces and pee and stuff, people just because
in the restaurant.
No, just in the city, because there's so many homeless and restaurants don't let you use the restroom, so they don't have any other choice, you know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
Where else are they supposed to go, you know what I'm saying?
It's not like they have a porta potty just on the street somewhere or whatever, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they don't allow it, right? Because, a lot of homeless mess up these restrooms or do drugs in these restrooms. Yeah. Not speaking for everyone's homeless, especially now because... it's so expensive to live in America that I don't even blame people at all for being homeless, because it's fucking impossible to live there. financially.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing I appreciate, by the way, is here it's like you could get any job. It doesn't matter how bad the job is. Like you could literally work at the convenience store across the street, like part-time.
For like 800 yen or something.
For like 800 yen an hour. And you can still live and you could still afford your own place. Not going to be a nice place, but you could afford your own place. You could afford to eat. You could afford to live. Mm-hmm. America, impossible. Forget about it. Like if you want your own place and to be able to buy your own food.
Well, California is a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So my perspective is Californian, right?
Yeah.
But I'll specify California. If you want your own place and want to just be completely self-sufficient without having a bunch of roommates and stuff like that, you can't just work anywhere and you can't just work part-time. Like you need a good full-time job that you probably had to work your way up, or it took you years to get to this position to finally be able to afford a fucking 1-bedroom apartment. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's insane. So
yeah,
I don't blame people at all.
You know, it was interesting because I went to the foot bath for my live stream the other night, the night that this happened when I was fighting off the Leaf Village attack. I went to the hot foot bath and I was soaking my feet, and one of the people who actually live in California, because I was like, this would be really cool, like in America if they had this, and just the person was like, we can't have this in America because the homeless people would use it as a bath, and they would just get all messy and dirty, and they would just get really just gross, and people wouldn't be able to use it because the foot bath is really clean, right. in Japan, and so we can have nice things.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you're at. A lot, because like I don't know, like where my parents live, there's that park, but it's just inundated by homeless people. But they kind of live in the ghetto area versus like where we grew up in Rockland or something. Like they have nice parks, and there's kids and stuff playing, and there's parents, like it's a nice area. So it depends, but it's like I don't know. It's nice that in Japan you literally don't have to worry about that ever, wherever you are. Like
I wouldn't say ever, I would say as much.
Yeah, as much. Yeah. Because we went to Yogi Park a couple weeks ago for the live, Park. And there was homeless people there.
I mean, there's homeless people, and I mean, especially, and there's parts. There's actually there's a section in Osaka, I believe, just mostly filled with homeless people. A lot of them are unfortunately addicted to drugs, but it's like the ghetto of Japan. And there's like an actual section in Osaka where most of the people who are addicted to drugs and homeless.
Yeah, well, okay. Everything I'm saying, there are exceptions for. But
right.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, no. This is always the case. But it's like, it's not something you would ever think about in Japan, I guess is my point. Like, America, safety and things like that are things you do have to think about depending on where you're at.
Right.
And it's like, here it's just more likely than not. There's no reason to worry about anywhere you go,
Oh yeah, there was something that you commented on earlier when we met up with our friend, was that I think this was your first time here, and I pulled over at a convenience store, and we both went inside, so there was nobody in the car, and I just left my car running, the windows down and everything, and you were like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, your car's going to be gone.
Yeah. So that was something that he was thinking about as far as like the mentality in America, where it's like, if that happens...
Yeah, like you would definitely not go to a gas station, run in and buy a drink, but your car is on with the keys running and all the windows down in the parking lot, with no one in it.
Yeah.
Like, you would not do that. Even if you are just buying a drink or something. It's like, it's insane. It's kind of like taking your shoes off in the house.
Yeah,
it's insane to not take your shoes off in the house here.
Right. Well, like even growing up here, it's like a lot of my friends, or like American friends, they had some sort of Asian influence. Like I was friends with a lot of like half kids, I guess, you could say. And so we all had like the shoes rule thing going on there. And even in our own house, we always took off our shoes as we entered the house. So.
Makes sense to me.
And for me, it's like, I think about that short where you're like, you know, somebody's about to put their foot down. Everyone's just like, you know, rolling up your toilet paper.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it to this day, it bothers me. I remember Matt's grandma, she came over to our apartment when we had our house, and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm not taking off my shoes. So she just walked into my carpet, and inside I was internally screaming.
You know what's funny, too, is my grandma's house and floor is just so dirty that, like, you do not want to take off your shoes when you walk into that house.
It bothers me every time that I go to her house because I have to keep my shoes on because they all just walk around with their shoes on. And
because I did go over there, huh?
And it was just like...
I think I did keep my shoes on because, like, I was trying to take it off, but I think somebody insisted I keep it on, so...
To be fair, I feel bad for my grandma because she has a hard time cleaning and stuff now.
She can't handle it on her own. But.
Like, I mean, we never took off our shoes in our house, and the house never got that dirty because we would, like, regularly clean and vacuum and stuff. But, it is...
I like laying on the floor sometimes. You know, I like the ability just to not have to worry about it and just lay on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which you can't
we just
really...
did it anyway.
Yeah, just do it over here in the Kotatsu. So.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
I think at some point I might just go into the Kotatsu and just bake.
Baking is a term in America.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different, so you might want to clarify. Getting baked means something completely different in America.
Increasing my body temperature in this Kotatsu. So.
Yes, this electric heated table.
Matt, what are some of the things that you find that you like or prefer here that like are kind of like a culture shock or things that just are different for you being here? Well, to clarify, before Matt lived here for 3 years, they did come to visit 3 different times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't Matt's first time dealing with...
For months at a time.
For months at a time,
It wasn't just...
So Matt did get some exposure being here before he decided to live here, so... But I guess, like, you can, like, if you can think back to, like, 2013, like, what were your first thoughts?
I mean, the first thing I do remember... This isn't really a cultural thing, but one of the first things I remember thinking that were really cool was just driving from the airport the first time I was here. It was like the lights on the side, because it was nighttime, the lights on the sides of the road and stuff, the reflectors that all flash in sequence to show you where the edge of the road is and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then also on the construction signs, they have lights all over there. That was really interesting. And also the road construction. Mm-hmm. In America, the road construction, when they have road construction, they just put out the orange cones. Mm-hmm. Always orange cones. Here, it's like, oh, look, that one looks like a little kid. And that one looks like a dog. And that one looks like, like they're like...
Like the barriers or...
Yeah, the barriers.
I see.
They're like cute. Right, everything's cute here.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, in general, everything is cute here.
Yeah.
Like,
they use the kawaii to their advantage.
Yeah, they do.
You go to a convenience store or like a shop of some sort or something, and more likely than not, they have like some anime mascot for everything.
Cute mascot
like
or something.
Representing how to use this thing or something. Like, it's not even the store's mascot. It's just like, you're buying this product has a mascot on it. It's an anime character that someone drew up or something, a manga.
Yeah.
Everything's cute. They do everything cute, which I like. I think it's one of those things
adds
where
personality.
It's like,
it's like,
aesthetically pleasing.
Why do more countries not do this, right?
Because,
like
especially in America, because it gets stolen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
It's like, this thing doesn't have to be serious, Like,
I don't think it has anything to do with the seriousness. I think it's the same thing as the hot foot bath that in America
it'll
they
just
can't...
get ruined.
It'll get ruined. Or it's like Somebody was commenting on the reflector lights, and somebody.
Yeah, I told you that.
Yeah, it was probably because it would probably get stolen.
Yeah, it would get stolen if we had like.
I mean, your
light
cousin
up
literally
reflectors.
stole a street sign to hang in his room.
Many street signs.
Many
There's
street
lots
signs.
of street signs.
He stole street signs to hang in his room. Like,
Oh my
people
goodness.
kind of need that, buddy.
Yeah, I was thinking about like some of my friends. You know, the biggest thing that they would want to steal is the Family Mart flag, the little Woody flag.
Mhm.
People would take it, and I remember I took a couple because they wanted to put it in their car or whatever. So,
yeah.
It was
also,
funny.
if I get arrested at some point, this is probably why.
Well, I remember, it's funny with Japan sometimes. So my mom has it, and I think I want to bring it here now that I have my own place. But right before I left 10 years ago in 2009 to go back to the States, we went to Sane, and they had a Spam poster.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was really obsessed with Spam because it's an
Your mom's poster?
Yeah, well, it's my poster.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
in Sane, and I asked them because I was like, oh, I really like this poster. Can I have this poster for Spam? I'm leaving to go back to the States, and I would really like something because it had Okinawa soba with the Spam on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually, she went and talked to the manager, and they took it down and actually gave it to me.
That's very nice.
Didn't even pay for it. There was like,
No,
oh, here you go.
you just like, yeah, take it.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
that was, I thought, really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I still have it too. I'll have to get it in here because it would be a really good
Yeah.
decoration.
Yeah, I want to see
Addition.
it.
Addition to our eclectic design here.
Mm-hmm.
But
Overall, like, I do prefer Japan. Still, even after 3 years, I'm just like,
After you've gotten over like the honeymoon phase of it, right?
yeah, I was thinking like, here's the thing: is like everyone told me, specifically, friends and family in America, like, oh yeah, you're after a while you'll get sick of it and be the honeymoon phase, or you'll miss things in America, and like, at the time I was like, no, I'm really feeling like I kind of want to move. I kind of want to do this,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I'll have any. And to be honest, for me in general, when I make a decision, like, my decisions are not like just random. Like,
Accident
they're
impulse or
very
whatever.
they're very calculated. I've thought of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why, when I share opinions on things, I'm very like adamant
Methodical.
in my opinion. There's like, I don't just believe this because I think it's right. I believe this because, I have evidence that supports this.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm always willing to hear what other people say and stuff, and it frustrates her. But
no. I was about to say, I think you proved me, and I think you and I had this conversation where we were, maybe it was Tyler, I don't remember, but we said that I think once the honeymoon phase ends, because when you first came here, you were like, oh, Japan's awesome, blah, 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 but there's going to be a point where you were going to struggle, and you actually haven't struggled as much as I thought you would. Like, you've actually enjoyed living in Japan, and I think the more you live here, the less you actually want to go back to the States.
yeah, I agree.
I knew that. I knew that about Matt, and I expected that. I knew Matt was going to struggle with certain things.
There are some
that-
things that like I did not anticipate that became a struggle.
One of the ones I predicted, like hand to hand, was the banking.
The banking
Yeah,
sucks
yeah.
here.
One thing I did
Oh my
not
God.
expect
the ATM
was
makes no sense.
yeah, I did not expect Japan's banking system to be so bad. Like, that's just not something you think about when you move to another country. It's not like I'm trying to do any advanced things. Like, I want to open a bank account,
Mm-hmm.
and I want like a debit card for the bank account, and I want it to have online access.
Right.
So like, check my balance, like maybe have an app or something. And I feel like Japan is one of the few countries that doesn't really do that, because it's a very heavy. I feel like if I went to any other country, that would not be a big ask. even third world countries, I feel like, have that established. Like we went to Thailand when we were in Thailand 7 years ago now. No, 5 years ago.
6.
So almost
2017.
Okay, well, one of the things that I noticed that I didn't realize was so bad in America, although I hear Australia is like terrible, but which is also surprising to me, internet access.
Yeah.
America has pretty quick internet, but compared to Thailand, a third world country, which has fiber optic
Is it still considered
everywhere.
third world?
Yes.
Yeah, it's third world. They have, I don't know, I was amazed by it. And Japan's the same way.
I wonder if the reasoning for that, though, is...
well, I know what the reasoning is, but...
I think maybe what it is when you consider, like, America, or at least the average American person, right? They all have internet access. Whereas, like, there's probably a lot of people in Thailand where they have this amazing fiber internet, but not a lot of people are using it, perhaps.
To me, I think it was more of an infrastructure.
It's political.
Well, I think it was
Political.
also an infrastructure thing. Because I think,
Well, America's bigger.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I understand.
there was a lot
No,
of cables already laid down, and they'd have to redo everything.
Well, it's political, though, because I know in Thailand and actually in Japan, the internet lines have become a utility that now the city and the country itself like maintain, because they think of it as like, oh, it's a gas line or a sewer line or a water line, right? Like the city is maintaining that stuff. Whereas in America, you know, the city and the country maintains all that stuff. But the internet lines are a bit more political, because what originally happened was like a giant company 100 years ago, like AT&T or something, paid their own money to lay all these cables down to give everybody phone access to their service. And then then the government came in and said, hey, you have to share these lines that you paid for and you brought in, and they can rent them and stuff. It became like this whole political thing. Anyway, long story short, the city doesn't pay for the lines and stuff. Here, this, like, Okinawa as a prefecture was just like, this is going to benefit us. Let's lay down these lines. There, it's like, AT&T is not going to pay for more lines. And the city, it's not a city thing because they're not the ones that control the lines. So it's like this big political mess.
and it's such a bigger country too.
Yeah.
It's so
And it's a big,
expensive.
but I'm like, even major cities, like a lot of them still, maybe now, but they're barely rolling out fiber. And
they've had fiber here for like 15 years plus, you know?
yeah, probably more than that even.
Yeah, because I think when I came back here in 2009, they had fiber, and I think they said they had already been using it for 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So probably 2007 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyway, it's this big political thing, but that was kind of a topic, like off topic.
I mean, but it's still kind of relevant. And this reminds me of
Internet here is fast. That was my point.
yeah, it's just like a really random topic about our friend who played Among Us, and he never played it before. And I think one of his excuses, because we're for those who play Among Us, like you have to guess who the imposter is, and you have to guess through dialogue or people talking or whatever, right? And the imposter has like these fake tasks or whatever. But our friend who had never played before, this is their first time, and one of the things he was able to use, because he actually lives in America, he was like, well, I didn't realize my character wasn't moving because of the high ping.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's a pro move, but like in America,
Oh, that was Sean.
yeah.
Yeah.
That would be
He's like, well, my ping is 200. Could that be it? And he's like, yeah, I guess so.
and it
was
actually
so good.
worked too, because like
Well, ping doesn't necessarily have to do with it.
Yeah.
Actually, he's a good example though, because he kind of lives in a rural area, and he now has like an air card, but he uses his phone internet for internet connection, because there's like literally no internet.
the phone internet is better than whatever internet provider they have there.
There is no provider.
Yeah, you can get
It's
so
only
far off the
satellite.
grid in America.
Satellite internet. He's really not that far off the grid.
It's just it's just a cutoff. He's
rural
past
enough.
the cutoff point. Like even his grandma, I think when she first got in, she was at the cutoff, right? Like she was the last house that provided.
Yeah, that's actually.
Well, in this neighborhood, there are houses that are cut off in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma's house, who you went to, when she moved in there, the house next door was the last house that Wave Cable, which was the local provider, serviced. Mm-hmm. And they were luckily, because that was the last house, they were able to, come out and install it from there to her house. Right.
But otherwise she wouldn't have had internet.
Wow, that's crazy.
And by the way, this is not fiber. This is cable internet.
Right. And cable was something that we dealt with 20 plus years ago here, right?
Well, yeah. Cable can be pretty fast. It's still... I don't know. There's a... Yeah.
But I remember using cable here 20 years ago, though. I think right after dial-up went away around 2003 or whatever. Yeah. We ended up using the Mediati broadband cable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember that one wasn't very good. I would play WoW and we'd get 600 or so, ping, or not ping, but
yeah, you're
whatever.
right. Because I think the last time I was remember using dial-up was when I was probably about 9 or 10. Because that was when I was moving I was living in the Koja house, and I remember covering the PC late at night with a blanket so my dad wouldn't hear the dial-up connection.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, it expanded quite quickly. It's not like.
But to think that was that conversation is going on recently in California, right?
Well, no, she moved there. How long? It's been.
Well, that was a while ago, but it's not like she has fiber lines now.
Yeah,
in fact, so Wave Cable is this local cable provider in Rockland area, and because it's cable, it's capable of up to a couple hundred megabytes a second. Even though she's the last one, and cable slows through distance, which is why fiber is so awesome, because there's no slow through distance, because it's just light. Anyway, for years I was just that's going to be your best option. You have no other options like cable. So just recently, now that I moved, because she has AT&T for or DirecTV or something for the TV, and they keep trying to sell her on the bundle, do the bundle. And years I'm no, don't do the bundle, because all they have available is the phone line, the DSL. It's DSL internet, right? Which is a max of 10 maybe megabytes a second. Anyway, she signed up for that just recently, a year, 6 months ago or something, because I'm not there anymore.
Right.
And
it's worse.
Apparently the DSL person or the AT&T person was yeah, we have high-speed internet there. I'm well, high-speed internet is literally not dial-up. That's what they're considering high-speed. You have,
oh my goodness,
you have 150 megabytes right now, and they're trying to bundle you into this 10 megabyte thing. Anyway, she switched because it's the bundle, and
her
people don't understand really. But
yeah,
I don't know. I honestly, she doesn't even use the internet, so it's
but your
really,
aunt complains
it's more
about
my aunt. I don't think my aunt complains about it, really. I think it's fast enough. I don't think, because they don't use Netflix or anything either, it's they just go on
They probably just go on
or
Facebook,
something. Yeah, Facebook or something, but because they have satellite TV and they're old school, they don't use the new modern stuff. But if they wanted to, they probably couldn't at this point.
Yeah.
If your grandma wanted to start playing Overwatch, it'd be
if she wanted to start playing some video games or start watching some Netflix, she might have some problems.
Some grandma that was playing with Skyrim though.
Dude, Skyrim grandma, she's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a WoW grandma too.
Yeah,
there's actually a lady.
Oh, the word I was thinking of for WoW was, I was trying to say ping, but it was latency. That was the word. It was 600 plus latency, and it was always just red. And I was ugh.
No, I have a lady that I follow on Twitch, and she's probably in her 60s, maybe 70s. but she plays a game called Journey, and that's all she plays.
Oh yeah,
but
that's supposed to be a really cool game.
But she's got so many followers, and I just love that. I love that. That's such a cool thing. She's so fun to watch too. She's so nice.
This is a very random conversation.
But I mean, it all does kind of tie together to like things that are like differences between
Yeah.
That's
here
unique
and there.
because for you lived in you weren't necessarily Japanese, but you've lived in Japan most of your life, and then you moved to America, and you talked about what was good and what was not so good, and then for you it was like you're new to Japan.
It's actually, this is kind of going back to that, but Linus, the YouTuber, he's a tech YouTuber. He did a thing where he came to Japan, and he's like, I'm going to test the fastest internet in the world, which is in Tokyo. And it's like a 3 or 5 gigabyte connection or something per second. Anyway, it was interesting because every website that he tested the speed for didn't reach the max that his internet was. Like, the internet, I guess my point is the internet can be so fast here that it's faster than what like Google and Facebook and YouTube and stuff can even provide. It's so fast. Like
YouTube, faster than Shinkansen fast.
Yeah, like YouTube doesn't even go this fast. They don't use, their servers are not putting out this amount of speed.
It kind of reminds me of like just a really, really random thing, but like Sonic the Hedgehog, like Smash Brothers, like the big blue stage or whatever.
Yeah.
All the cars. Sonic can actually run faster than the cars in the road himself.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what about you? So you were born and raised here in Japan.
Till 20, yeah.
Till 20. And then you moved to America for 10 years, in California specifically, and then you came back here. So I guess what are the things that you prefer, I guess, in either location, or like what's different in your mind?
I think for me, the biggest shock to me in America, I think the number one thing I first was like shocked about was how heavy the food is. I felt like everything is covered in cheese. And it's like, you're talking about portion sizes. I'm talking about the heaviness it sits in your stomach.
Yeah.
Like, even if we're eating rice, I think it's because I'm used to Japanese food now, so I could feel the heaviness when I eat Japanese food. But when I first went to America, I couldn't understand why my stomach felt...
It's like the grease and the fat.
Yeah, I felt like my stomach was being weighted down, and I had never really felt that when it came to food before. And that was really interesting. Just the different densities of food. Eventually, after living there for 10 years, my stomach got used to it. So when I would come to Japan, I would rarely ever feel bloated because I just got so used to American food.
Oh, right.
But that was like the very first thing that I remember is just the density of the food.
Oh yeah. What about your coffee story, or like at the airport or whatever?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. The very first day, literally we land in San Francisco, and I'm already having a hard time because I miss home. I never wanted to go to the States and whatnot. So my ex-husband and I get off the airplane with his family. And I'm thirsty. We've been on this 12-hour plane ride, so my husband suggests we go get some coffee or some tea. Well, I didn't drink coffee at the time. So we went to this little, like, Starbucks, like, airport cafe. And I go up to this lady, and I'm like, timidly, my timid little Japanese self, go up to this lady, and she's looking at me with absolutely no emotion in her face. Like, I was expecting her to be like, welcome in, but like Japan,
Yeah.
Absolutely none of that. So this lady gave me the death stare. Like, she was like, and that took me back first. And then I timidly walk up to her and I'm like, I don't drink coffee. Do you have any tea? And this lady literally dead face looks at me and with a, like, just a scowl on her face goes, can't you read this menu, basically? Just can't you read? And I was like, oh my God. I started crying so hard and ran out of there. I was so embarrassed and I hated America. I was like, fuck this place. What are these coffee shop bitches yelling at me, insulting me? I was so embarrassed.
Oh, that actually reminds me of something that's really big here that I really like, that I do not like about America, and that's the drink selection.
Oh,
the drink selection in America is like, you go to every single restaurant. It's starting to get a little bit better, but
there's
you
like
go to
4 drink choices.
Yeah, you go to every single restaurant and their drinks are provided to them either by Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Mm-hmm. And regardless of which one it is, they have the same drinks.
The same 4-pound drinks or whatever.
Yeah. It's Coke or Pepsi, which is big
Mountain
difference.
Dew or Sprite.
Mountain Dew. Well, not Mountain Dew or Sprite. Sierra Mist or Sprite.
Yeah, Sierra Mist or Sprite.
Mountain Dew's the unique
Dr.
one.
Pepper or root beer.
Mr. Pibb.
Mr. Pibb.
Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb.
What is Mr. Pibb?
Mr. Pibb is Dr. Pepper.
but a different brand.
It's Coca-Cola's version.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of Mr. Pibb.
All right, it's called Pibb Extra now, too.
Yeah, and then it's sweet tea, unsweetened tea, and water.
Oh, yeah. That sounds about in line with...
Sometimes they have lemonade.
And, well, he knows because the military base is the same
The
thing.
military base is very similar, except for the one we went to had real gold. That was cool.
And sometimes melon soda and stuff.
Melon soda
Melon
and stuff.
soda,
yeah.
But, yeah, the drink selection... Oh, and if, in case you didn't notice, based on when I was saying that, they're all filled with sugar, and they're all sweet. They're all carbonated. Mm-hmm. They're all sweet and they're all carbonated. They're all sodas. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you don't want soda, they might have iced tea, which I know you like it, but iced tea in America is so bad.
Just Lipton
it's
black
like
tea.
The most generic Lipton tea, right?
Lipton black tea.
Well, it's unsweetened or sweetened
Lipton.
black tea. That's your tea
There's
choice
no
in
green
America.
tea.
If you're
I'm very
from
passionate about this.
any Asian country, yes, or even like England or something, and you asked for tea in a restaurant in America, you'd be appalled. Like it's insane how shitty it is.
Well, okay, I'll talk about what I was appalled by, because after that incident, I went to the vending machine in America and literally burst out crying because there was 5 choices. I was like, what is this?
Like, the
Where's all the different choices?
For those of you that don't know, the choices here, like, first of all, there's the vending machine. Like, there's literally a vending machine directly below us. Actually, there's 2. There's 2. They have very different drinks. There's how many? Like maybe 20 choices.
Each vending machine probably
them.
carries about 15 to 20 different choices.
15 to 20 choices, yeah. Or 30. Because I think about it, like one row is about 10 drinks, and there's usually
probably
3
close,
rows.
Yeah.
So close to 30.
8 to 10 maybe.
Some of them will be like duplicates, though, because it'll be like multiple spots.
Yeah,
but mostly because it'll be like cold and hot drinks.
But I'll tell you something. As far as like getting a drink from here, soda is most definitely not your only choice. In fact, that's probably the drink that's least available in a vending machine. Mm-hmm. I would say it's mostly filled. You depends on the vending machine, but mostly filled with teas and coffees.
Or like sports drinks, like Aquarius.
Sports drinks are common. There's all kinds of juices. There's
Waters.
like yogurt drinks.
There's like peach waters, like fruits drinks.
Sometimes there's soup.
Yeah, soup. There was an almond milk in one too.
Yeah, almond milk. Like, oh, and there's sodas, of course. But
there's just
it's
so many
crazy.
different.
It's like, I don't always want my drinks to be sweet, and I don't want it to always be water. You know, like tea. Tea is great. I don't know.
I think the biggest
or
thing.
Coffees. They have a lot
I
of
don't
different
want it
coffees.
to be black tea.
Right.
Like, what if I want green tea or white tea
or
roasted rice brown tea or something? Like, they have those here. All
Drinks
of them,
like nata de coco or whatever.
are
Remember when I
readily
had that
available.
one time, and I was surprised that they had like little chunks in there, and I drank it. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, the drinks in Japan are vastly superior.
Jinx.
Jinx.
I said it
Pinch
first.
poke, you owe somebody a Coke.
I don't want to
Does it have to be Coke? Yeah.
We have more options.
Yeah, we have.
This is America.
This is America, Chris. We don't need a Coke.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, he heard your clap.
But yeah, no, I think for me,
They're garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go to a gas station, there's a lot of choices, but most of them are
It's like ices or Slurpees or whatever, right? And those all have drinks too.
In the
In the
refrigerated section.
section.
They have lots of energy drinks.
lots of different, like, there's a lot of drinks.
They do have teas. Mostly it's sweet drinks like Gatorades and sodas.
Or
Gatorade sodas. And the teas they have, there's not very many that are that great.
I don't think
some
convenience
choices.
stores and gas stations are that much different in terms of like selections. It's definitely the vending machine. But I think
Well,
for
restaurants too.
Restaurants, yeah.
But I think for me, the biggest thing is I miss the friendliness of America. I miss being able to... I feel like that community aspect of being able to... Like, I think it's easier to make friends in America than it is in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And we could talk about that more later, because we're at 6:33 and we have to go pick up my uncle really soon, and I have to pee really bad.
Okay.
Me too.
So maybe-
My house left to pee really bad.
Maybe so that's something we could talk next time.
Yeah.
But I miss the friendliness of Americans and the ability to make... Like, I think it's easier to make friends over there. But there's a lot of things in Japan that I like too. I like the safety aspect of it. I don't know.
I like the
If-
food better here.
the
but
food
that's
better here?
subjective.
If you get your head away from the social pressures of Japan, like how you're supposed to act a specific way, I actually think there's a lot of opportunity here to grow because it's such an untapped area, because everybody has this hive mentality. So if you have the ability to break away from the hive, I think you have a really great opportunity to build something fantastic, because there's so much untapped potential.
That's true. We could talk much more about that in
next
depth,
time. But that's another thing.
yeah, that's definitely something big, and it's easy coming from America, from America as an American is what I was trying to say, because you already don't fit into the hive, so it's a little more.
You're
It's
you're
a little
giving
easier.
like a little bit more of a pass,
We
right?
could, I feel
You're
like
not
that's
expected to fit in, so
I
because
feel like-
of that, you just kind of act.
well, I feel like
own
that
way.
could be a really long conversation. If you guys want us to talk about that specifically, please let us know in the comment section. If you have any other topic you'd like us to discuss, make sure to leave that in the comment section as well.
Yep.
But we're gonna go because I gotta piss.
Thanks for
too.
Ryu crew
You're
watching.
gonna go first, though.
Crew.
Yeah.
You're
Actually,
the,
I'm gonna go first. You might have trouble.
you're the crew.
Yeah, I think you can get there faster and get your pants down faster.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. Make sure to like and subscribe, bitches.